good morning, YouTube friends and family, and welcome to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So today we are going to make another recipe from the Harvest Baker Cookbook. And I know my last video was from this cookbook, but this recipe is just perfect for this time of the year because it uses blueberries as well as mint. So I'm going to try to do a better job today. I was a little off. I filmed yesterday on everything, and you know, sometimes you just have those days, but I wanted to get that video up for you because let me tell you guys, that bread, the skillet bread, was so delicious. I had to make myself stop eating it. So today we're going to do something that you could use either as a breakfast food or for dessert, but it's a good way to use up all your fresh blueberries. So a note, you know how when you'll cook like blueberry muffins or something blueberry, how the whole dough will turn purple and it's not super pretty? A good way to counteract that is to start with your blueberries frozen. So for this recipe, I'm using about 1.5 cups of frozen blueberries. And then our dry ingredients, whoops, I guess I need to swing you down here, don't I? Push you back a little bit, straighten you up a little bit. Yeah, today's gonna be a better video. I have in this bowl 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/3 cup of sugar, 2.5 tablespoons, and yes, I said tablespoons, of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then the actual recipe calls for nutmeg. I personally do not care for nutmeg, so I put a little cinnamon in there. It says 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg. I probably put about 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Cinnamon goes good with blueberries, right? So I am just going to stir that up. And then to this mixture, you want to add 6 tablespoons of cold butter. And I just cube mine up into little pieces. And the first thing you want to do before you start trying to really combine it, and I'm using a Danish whisk. I will also drop that in the description box below, a link to my Amazon affiliate site. You just want to get those pieces of butter coated with the flour so that they're separate and it doesn't just blob up into one big blob. Then you want to use a pastry cutter. So you can use a fork and a knife. Like for years, I didn't have one of these, but I will say that it does work a little better in my estimation than just using a fork and a knife. It's a little bit faster. But for me, part of the fun of cooking is spending some time in the kitchen, doing something nice for myself. I like this recipe because it is not super high in sugar. I can't speak to how it would be if you used a sugar substitute because I don't bake with sugar substitute. The only time I really use any sugar substitute is if I'm putting it into a beverage like a iced tea, and since my kidney stones, I have not been drinking iced tea. But I am enjoying all the Circle Bottle flavors. I actually got one of the unsweetened ones and tried it. And yeah, I like my drink sweet. Good old Southern girl, which born and raised in Ohio, but both of my parents were born and raised in Kentucky. So I don't know if that's where it comes from, Southern tea being super sweet. I know when and I haven't done this in a very long time, but when I go through McDonald's drive-thru, a lot of times they'll have the tea for $1. So always get the unsweet tea because I don't want all that sugar necessarily, but I need it sweet. So in the great big one, I always ask for 7 equal, and they're always like, excuse me? And I'm like, yes, I said 7 equal. I like it sweet. So we're coming to a good point here. You know, the bread will look like coarse bread. The butter, oh no, not another day like this. I've already dropped an egg on the floor, which, goodness. It will look like coarse crumbs. So it's not going to completely disappear, but you want it pretty well worked in. And then from time to time, clean off the tines of your pastry cutter. But we're getting to a pretty good point here. And you do want to start with your butter cold. You don't want it to just mush in soft. This will make the very tender, delicious dough. Okay, so I am going to show you where I am here because I'm calling this good. just rinse off my hand. So this is what we have. You can see there's some coarse pieces in here. Now to that, we're going to add a liquid mixture. So let me tell you what is in here. In here, I have 3/4 cup of heavy cream or whipping cream, not half and half. You could probably use half and half, I would think, but this is gonna be good. 1 large egg, half a teaspoon of lemon extract or 2 teaspoons of grated lemon peel, which is what I did, the lemon zest, half a teaspoon of vanilla, and you want to take a couple teaspoons of that out, put it in a separate container because we're going to actually brush it on the top. So y'all know I can't have everything, right? Okay, nope, that's a spatula. So I am going to add all of these liquid ingredients into the dry and mix that well until it at least holds together. You don't want to overmix. Most doughs, if you overmix, the bread will be sort of tough. So we're going to do that. Where do we put that? And I'm just folding it in here. I'm not stirring vigorously. You do want to get it all combined so that it's like a shaggy dough is what we're looking for. Then I'm going to fold in my 1.5 cups of still frozen blueberries. So the other thing about using your blueberries frozen is it keeps you from having your berries ruptured and releasing all that lovely purple juice. And if you like purple, that's fine. You can do it that way too. I'm just trying to be a purist here and have whole blueberries in my scones. So that's pretty good. Let's add in our blueberries. And I'm actually going to grab a little bit more of this liquid that I left behind in the cup because this batter is pretty dry. Anytime I'm following a recipe, if I feel like it's too dry, it's too wet, I kind of use my own judgment, and this is a first for me. I have not made this before. So, this almost looks like it'd be easier to do with your hands, honestly. I'm just folding in those blueberries. Oh yeah, this is gonna be good. So I am trying not to pop the blueberries, but honestly, I'm sure I'm doing a little bit of that. But they are staying whole very nicely. Okay, and you can do a little bit of mixing when you turn it out onto the counter. So the next thing we're going to do here, besides make a mess, I'm good at doing that, is we're going to put a little flour on the counter to keep our dough from sticking. So I'm just going to dust some flour on here like this, and I'm going to scrape my dough out. Oops, blueberry overboard onto this floured surface, and I'm going to press it together into a circle. And I'm trying not to pop my blueberries because who doesn't want to bite into a scone that has great big whole blueberries? And so far, guys, I really don't think I've popped too many of them. And if you have too many in one area, I say spread them around, because I do, seems like there's a bunch right here. So I'm going to spread it around a little bit. So the dough is very shaggy, very sticky. But with the flour, it doesn't appear like it's sticking to the counter. Okay. Now, you can take plastic wrap and put over top of this and roll it a little bit to get the perfect circle. So let me wash my hands and I'll bring you right back. All right, I do have my oven preheating on convect to 425. And as you can see, I have my large cookie sheet here ready with parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, lightly butter your cookie sheet or cooking tray. The thickness that we're going for is about 3/4 of an inch. So I am going to press mine out just a little bit. I'm trying not to smash my blueberries and to get it very even so that when our scones cook, they cook evenly through. Now, mine isn't a perfect circle, but you know, hey, 'tis life. All right, so now you have a choice. You can cut this into either 6 or 8. I am using a bench cutter. I love this one because it does have the measurements on it. And I will try to put a link to this. I did buy this on Amazon, but it's been quite some time, so I'm not exactly sure if they still make it. So let's see. Maybe I'll do 8. Yeah, so I'm just kind of making my guiding lines here before I start cutting. And what you want to do with each of these is rearrange them onto your baking sheet in that same configuration that I've got right here, but you want to leave a little bit of space in between. So, guys, does this ever look good? Now, you're probably going to sacrifice a couple blueberries in the process because I don't really want to waste that because you may be cutting through them, but that's okay. The secret isn't that the blueberries have to all be whole. And I'm just tidying up the edge here. I did get a spatula thinking that, oh yeah, that is much easier. So there you go. Using like a pie server, much easier. And so this dough is quite tender, I will tell you that. So it's shaggy, falls apart a little bit, tender. Wow, that's a lot of blueberries. But I do think it's gonna be delicious. Delicious. Like, who doesn't like blueberry scones, right? There isn't probably a dessert or sweet on this planet that I don't love, but I also love savory. I mean, let's face it, Kim likes food. Oh, guys. But I do love this cookbook. I'm going to go back to the book because it's things that I have on hand and that are in season. And, you know, one thing I have struggled with, admittedly, is wanting to make all of the things that are in season and then kind of burning out and not really knowing, like, okay, a girl can only make so much jam. And this is a great use for blueberries. I have blueberry jam, so I don't need blueberry jam. I have blueberries and honey, which are great in yogurt if you've never canned them that way. Oh, amazing. Okay, I digress. So I'm going to take my heavy cream mixture that we set aside, and I am going to brush it on these scones lightly. And that is just letting me know my oven is ready. I'm getting better with my oven, which I've only had for, oh, I don't know, 10 years, probably longer than that. I bought a huge, well, the range isn't big, but the oven portion is very, very large, which is not a bad thing, but because you can do like a lot of things at the same time. But I will tell you, it takes a lot longer to preheat. And I have struggled a bit with learning how to use convection because this is my first convection oven. But I do love it, and I do think it makes for more even cooking. It isn't, for me, it is not faster. I don't know if that's supposed to be. I thought it was supposed to be, but not the case. Okay. Let me rinse my hands. It's raining, forecast to rain here in Ohio today. So I need to run out and get some mint because we are going to make some confectioner's glaze and mint sugar. But I'm going to pop these into the oven for 25 minutes until they're golden brown. So stay tuned. So while your scones bake, there are a couple toppings that I want to make. And the first thing we're going to make is mint sugar. So you take a cup of granulated sugar, and I am putting mine into my Ace Instant Pot blender that does a lot of things, and I will leave a link below. And then you want a bunch of mint. So let me just show you what I've got here. This much mint. So, I don't know, smoosh down a couple tablespoons maybe. You want to wash it. You only want to use really good mint, no stems. Pat it dry on paper towels, then transfer it to more paper towels. Get it good and dry. Drop those in, and then you're just going to blend it. And this thing is so loud, guys. I apologize in advance. Till all that mint is as fine as your sugar. So let me remember how to do this. I think I remember. Usually I have to get the manual out. It has a delay feature. Now, when you grind sugar in a blender, it turns into powdered sugar or something akin to powdered sugar. So your sugar is going to be super fine. Oh, y'all. So this still needs some more blending. You can still see pieces of mint. I just didn't want to overdo it. So my sugar is going to be super fine. And whatever I have left over, because this is going to go on the top of the scones, I'm going to treat myself to some iced tea. So I'm going to keep blending. Then I'm going to get the ingredients out for the glaze that we're going to make for the top of our blueberry scones. I wanted to show you my final finished mint sugars. You can see just little dots of green. Oh, it tastes amazing. I have a ton of mint right now. If you're local and you would like a start of mint, drop me a comment below. I will dig you some. Mint is extremely invasive, as is lemon balm, and it's kind of taking over. I have mint grass and lemon balm grass. But because this is so delicious, I think I'm going to use some of my mint in regular table sugar, and it does come out to a powdered sugar consistency in the Instant Pot Ace blender. I don't know if it would in a regular blender. I don't own one, but I think I'm going to make a couple jars of it, vacuum seal it, and I'll do small jars so that I can have something kind of unusual for my occasional glass of iced tea. I don't know if I shared this, but I did have my final appointment with the urologist. I do still have a 4.3 millimeter stone that when he tried to cut it, went all the way back up into my kidney. However, that could sit there. It's not blocking anything for the remainder of my life. I did, and I hope this isn't TMI, I did a special 24-hour urine collection test, we'll just leave it at that, where they analyze like the calcium levels and any like pH and all kinds of different things. And the verdict was, it's perfect. Don't change anything. You don't need any medication, which I'm super glad about. But I'm like, well, that does not help me as to why I got this kidney stone. The theory of my family physician is I've had it for years, and it just took a notion to move and blocked my kidney and, you know, created the cascade of problems. So this one could very well do the same thing. Sometimes I feel like I'm sitting on a ticking time bomb, but now I know what it is. I know the symptoms, and I know what I need to do should it happen. So, all right, I got yakking. So let's make some glaze for these delicious scones because they don't have a lot of sugar, and the blueberries I used, of course, were unsweetened. So I just wing it, guys. I'm not using their recipe. So I've got about a cup of confectioner sugar or powdered sugar, and this is some that I've made out of regular table sugar. And then I have a lemon with a seed. I thought I picked all those out. I am going to use some lemon juice because we put lemon peel into these blueberry scones, and wow, that is a seedy lemon. I want to have that lemon flavor, and I pretty well zested this lemon, and you don't want to get into the pith or the white part. Let me see if I can get, probably should have done that before I cut the lemon in half. I'm getting a little bit. I'm going to put a little fresh lemon zest because that will just give it a nice bright flavor. And you want glaze to be nice and thin. So I do have my whipping cream out here. And, ooh, that's not nice and lemony. I think that's probably lemony enough. So you want to add this in very small amounts. Otherwise, you'll spend the entire day adding powdered sugar, then adding more liquid to get it to the consistency that you want. You can put vanilla extract. You could put lemon extract. You know, I think I'm going to put a little vanilla in this. So this is kind of the anything goes. I also think this recipe would be really good with orange. And I almost did orange, but I only have one orange on hand. And I have that for another recipe that I hope to be bringing you. So I've gotten so many nice comments, and I want to thank you all for that, on what you would like to see coming up. And one of the things I did hear a lot was more recipes, more what do I eat, wellness living tips. And I really just have to tell you guys, while I don't probably talk about wellness as much as I should, since I am the wellness homesteader, a lot of what I'm doing, guys, with gardening and getting exercise and my diet, which you're probably like, you're using heavy cream and sugar, that's not really healthy. But let me tell you, eat a lot of fresh fruits, vegetables, and herbs. That is a healthy diet. And I've never professed to be 100% perfect. Still miss my gravy. Miss my gravy, guys. Really miss my gravy. So we're down to, you know, a pretty thick paste, and I want it a little bit thinner. So if you've ever bought the pre-packaged apple cherry turnovers, those kinds of things, that little packet of glaze that is so delicious, that's kind of what I'm aiming for. So there you go. So now all we need to do is wait for our scones to come out of the oven, and I will bring you back then. Well, our scones, our beautiful scones, are out of the oven. You can see I've glazed one already. So on convect in my ginormous oven, it took exactly 25 minutes. They were ready, nicely browned in that the glaze that you put on the top with the heavy cream. Is part of the reason for the lovely browning. So what I'm doing now with my glaze is I just have a fork, and I have let these cool a bit. I didn't want the glaze to like melt and run everywhere. And I probably made a little too much glaze, because the actual recipe in the book called for 2 cups of confectioner's sugar or powdered sugar, whatever you call it. I didn't want that much on hand because that is a lot, in my opinion. However, this looks like it's not going to be too much. And of course you need a lot. Hello. But I do think, given the fact that the blueberries are unsweetened, obviously they weren't packed in heavy syrup. These are freshly frozen blueberries. I don't think I'm over I can't speak and I drop things yet, but hey, I got the scones made and they look amazing. So I'm just gonna try to use up most of this. These are beautiful, and actually they went together really quickly. And if you don't want to use the mint sugar, that was probably the thing for me that took a little bit longer, because I had to go pick them in, then I had to wash the blender when I was done. You could certainly leave that off, or just use like a sanding sugar is always really good. The crunchy, large sugar that you can use at the holidays. I've used it on several things. I love sanding sugar. It can be hard to find. So let me give you this tip. Walmart.com. If you can't find it at your local Walmart, the Great Value brand is good, not expensive. I had only the option to buy it in packs of 2, which isn't a problem for me because I do so much home cooking. So that nice pop of lemon. So now Ooh, excuse me. Our final step is I want to sprinkle some of our mint sugar. Again, here's the mint sugar on top of that glaze while it's still, I wonder if I should use a, no, this is fine. You could sift it on top, but yeah, this is working fine. But you want to do it while your glaze is still wet so that it will stick and not just fall off. And I will tell you, this is a gracious plenty of mint sugar, but I think it's going to be really good in tea, even if I use artificial sweetener to sweeten the tea to my killer sweet that I like, and then just add some mint sugar for the flavor. I think that will be just delicious. So guys, look at our beautiful, beautiful scones. They are lovely. Lemon blueberry scones with mint sugar. So I am going to grab one of these. I need to photograph this for proof I made them. No, seriously, for my thumbnail. And then we'll taste one together and I'll give you my impressions. Time for the taste test. These lifted off of the parchment paper, perfectly fine. Oh, wow, guys. The texture, I thought it would be more like a biscuit, but it is like a very flaky pastry. Not overly sweet. Guys, this is a must try. So delicious. So again, another recipe from the Harvest Baker. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button. Leave me a comment below. What do you think of this new Harvest Baker themed series? Are you enjoying the recipes? So as always, be healthy, be well, be blessed, and I'll see y'all very soon. Take care.